Good morning. Hey, today we're going to take a trip up to Goldfield, Nevada. It's about 200 miles north and west of where I live here in Las Vegas. I've already produced two videos, one talking about the history of the buildings there. The second one was related to all the mines in the area. And today we're going to go up there and take a look at the history of the railroads. It's quite interesting. And I've got my coffee for the road trip up there. So let's go do some exploration.
Before any railroad was built to Goldfield, most all freight and passenger traffic came by way of Tonopah. A wagon road to Goldfield was built that ran to the east of the present-day highway. Most goods were hauled in heavy freight wagons. One of the options explored was a traction engine, which could haul larger and heavier loads than could horse-drawn freight wagons. They looked like a monster tractor. They were steam-driven and carried a large boiler and a stack that rose 12 feet or more above the ground. They were slow, but no doubt presented an impressive appearance as they crawled across the desert, pulling a train of wagons. The Tonopah Traction and Transportation Company was formed to provide a heavy freight service. They figured a traction engine could make the trip from Tonopah to Goldfield in 10 hours, or about 2 miles an hour. These traction engines were tried at Rhyolite and elsewhere on the desert, but they tended to break down a lot, sometimes because of using mineralized water from the desert springs. When the railroad was built, these traction engines vanished from the scene. This is a photo of a traction engine located there in Goldfield. A traction engine used out of Rhyolite is on display at Furnace Creek in Death Valley National Park. The first operating railroad to reach Goldfield was the Tonopah and Goldfield Railroad. This railroad was extended from the north just south of Mina. The railroad was completed to Goldfield in September 15, 1905. Tonopah boomed first, and the Tonopah Railroad was built from Sotaville near Mina to Tonopah in 1904. Next was Goldfield. The Goldfield Railroad was built from Tonopah to that new boom in 1905, and soon thereafter the Tonopah and Goldfield Railroad was born with the merger of these two lines. In about 1905, the Tonopah and Goldfield Railroad built a large roundhouse and turntable at a place known as Miller's, some 10 miles west of Tonopah on flat ground. Tonopah was too steep and hilly for any large service yards. An 8-stall roundhouse was built adjacent to a 90-foot diameter turntable. This allowed for the turning of the locomotives and coal cars before they were sent in for service. Service pits existed underneath the tracks inside the roundhouse, allowing mechanics easy access to the underside of locomotives. The only evidence of this facility existing from 1905 is a series of concrete foundations, including the foundation for the turntable and also the service base. As I had stated earlier, the first railroad to reach Goldfield was the Tonopah and Goldfield, which came from the north. There's really not much evidence today that's left as far as the rail bed goes, or the depot that was once present in Goldfield. So on that matter, all I have to show you is this historical photo that was captured in 1905 with great fanfare as it related to the driving of the Golden Spike, which completed the Tonopah and Goldfield Railroad to Goldfield. As with many of the railroads during this period, they were constructed rather hastily, as they were always racing to get to the next location. There are many photos of the Tonopah and Goldfield Railroad showing inspections and inspectors. However, this railroad was not immune to the flash floods that would cause great damage to the train tracks, and in some instances there were derailments. The second railroad to reach Goldfield was the Bullfrog Goldfield Railroad, and it began service in June of 1907. The third railroad, Las Vegas and Tonopah, reached Goldfield in October of 1907. Borax Smith's Tonopah and Tidewater Railroad built north from Ludlow, California, in a race with the Las Vegas and Tonopah Railroad. The Tonopah and Tidewater tracks never reached Goldfield, but their trains did by 1908 using the Bullfrog Goldfield tracks. In 1908, Goldfield had 3 separate railroads that provided freight and passenger service to outlying areas. Goldfield power brokers George Wingfield and George Nixon consolidated virtually all of Goldfield's mining and milling companies by 1908. They built a 100 stamp mill northwest of town. The Goldfield Consolidated Mines Railroad brought ore to the mill and brought out gold and silver, which was distributed via the other railroads. The Goldfield Consolidated Mines Railroad was built for the express purpose of hauling ore only 1.87 miles from the mines to the new 100 stamp mill. So as you can see, this site was very, very busy with railroads. So at one time, Goldfield was a railroad hub for the entire state of Nevada. The boom years in Goldfield ran from about 1905 through 1910. The year 1908 was still a great year for Goldfield, but soon after the financial panic in the U.S., mining waned throughout the entire United States, and especially in Goldfield. By 1910, the population was down to about 5,000 people. The Tonopah and Goldfield Railroad was the first to reach Goldfield on September 15, 1905. Of the 3 major railroads serving Goldfield, the Tonopah and Goldfield Railroad lasted the longest and ceased operations in 1947. The Bullfrog and Goldfield Railroad began passenger services between Goldfield and Beatty in June of 1907. And this railroad operated to Goldfield up until January of 1928. After that, there was no longer any rail service south of Goldfield. The Las Vegas and Tonopah Railroad reached Goldfield in October of 1907. The Las Vegas and Tonopah Railroad operated until 1918, and then the tracks were removed in 1919. The Tonopah and Tidewater Railroad never reached Tonopah or Goldfield. However, their trains did when they merged with the Bullfrog Goldfield Railroad in 1908. The Goldfield Consolidated Mines Company built their private railroad to serve their consolidated mines and others in the immediate area. That railroad was completed in March of 1908, and they operated this line until September of 1915. Then the Tonopah and Goldfield Railroad Company took over the operation of this line, which they operated until 1931. This is an aerial view of the rail bed for the Goldfield Consolidated Mines Company, just to give you an idea of what that route looks like as it heads towards the 100 stamp mill. I put this photo up showing the old 1909 topographical map showing the railroads into Goldfield. It just shows you the ridiculousness of the race to Goldfield to tap into the needs that they had for freight. In most parts you can see the Bullfrog and Goldfield and the Las Vegas and Tonopah railroads paralleled each other for many, many miles. I thought I would follow the Las Vegas and Tonopah rail bed for a while, just so you guys can get a feel for it. As you can see, this is the bed and the rails were moved many, many years ago. And that straight path there to the right was the Bullfrog and Goldfield Railroad. This perspective is looking to the south and the east, away from Goldfield. And this view is looking towards the west and north, looking at Goldfield in the distance in the background. The line on the right was the Las Vegas and Tonopah Railroad, and the line on the left was the Bullfrog Goldfield Railroad. As you continue following the line on the left, you can see the turn that continues to the left. That alignment ends up ultimately at the Bullfrog Goldfield Railroad Freight Depot and Repair Yard. And if that same line you continue straight, it ends up at the Bullfrog and Goldfield Passenger Depot. The Goldfield Historical Society is currently working on a project here at the Bullfrog Goldfield Railroad Yard. They're working on display and restoration of the Tonopah and Goldfield boxcars that were rescued from a place in Fernley, Nevada. Those two boxcars behind me are known as the Hicks boxcars, built in 1905. They're the only two surviving boxcars. They were once used on the Tonopah and Goldfield Railroad. This photo shows the remains of what once was the maintenance facility for the Bullfrog and Goldfield Railroad. And here is what remains of the machine shop. And this looks like a boxcar that was under repair at one point. This photo I took I found very interesting. It's a photo of 1911. It was behind a display case, so you got a little bit of reflection. But as you can see there, you can see the two-stall maintenance facility. And the boxcar you see there, it looks like it's completed, is in a similar location to that photo I had taken earlier, just showing the skeleton of the boxcar. This area right here that we're flying over is the Las Vegas and Tonopah Railroad yards. This is a view of the concrete foundation that was the turntable for the Las Vegas and Tonopah Railroad. And then what you're seeing here are the service bays for the trains. This building that we're looking at right now, I believe, was the freight depot for the Las Vegas and Tonopah Railroad. And what you're seeing here is the foundation that's left behind of the 100 stamp mill that was built, owned, and operated by the Goldfield Consolidated Mines Company. You can see that main roadway right there was the rail bed where they used the trains to come and dump the ore.
Hey, thanks for joining me on that wonderful expedition that I did up there, Goldfield. That was the third video that I did up there. The first one was all about the buildings. The second one was all about the mines. And of course, this one was about the railroads, which is quite fascinating in itself. I found it really interesting to see how much railroad activity there was up in this fantastic city at one time, of almost 20,000 people back in 1907 to 1910, I believe, somewhere in that area is when it gained its most population. And unfortunately, it was also a bust, and now there's very few people that live there. And all the railroads and evidence thereof have been removed. You can still see some of the rail beds, which I taken some of the shots for that. But I'm glad you guys got to join me on this adventure, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And for other material like this one, please make sure you subscribe to my video channel, Ghost Town Wonders. Thanks for watching.